Good evening. Good evening, everybody. Thank you. Gracious. Thank you for joining us this evening. My name is Aaron Ott, and I am the Curator of Public Art here at the Buffalo AKG Art Museum. And I welcome you here tonight for a community conversation. A bit of housekeeping regarding parking. For anyone who parked in the parking garage, please be sure to receive a QR code for your parking discount at a visitor services desk before you return to your car, please. As I begin, I'd like to start by acknowledging the land on which we reside. The first permanent gallery of the Buffalo Fine Arts Academy was constructed on the traditional land of the Seneca, part of the Six Nations Confederacy. And it is on this land that the Buffalo AKG Art Museum resides today. The native occupants of this land were among the estimated 10 million Native Americans in pre-colonial North America who were disrupted and displaced. For many residents of Western New York, the legacy of displaced Native Americans is visible only as place names or street signs, including the Scajaquada corridor immediately to the north of this museum campus. As an institution, we collectively acknowledge this land as the traditional home of the Seneca and honor the Native American members of our community who continue to bear the burden of this history as they live nearby and among us. We are grateful to live and work and learn on this land. This evening, my gratitude overflows in many ways, not the least of which because you are all here. We would like to express our gratitude to the sponsors of the exhibition Before and After Again, which many of you just came from. It is presented by Tops Friendly Markets and M&T Bank. We would also like to thank Nicole and Steve Swift and two anonymous donors for their support. Julia Bottoms' work, and thereby this exhibition, was made possible through the generosity of the New York State Council of the Arts with the support of the Office of the Governor and New York State Legislature. Many of you have had the opportunity to visit the exhibition in the M&T Gallery this evening below this auditorium. If you have not yet, I urge you to come back and visit, spend time, reflect, participate in the natural community dialogue prompted by the exhibition. The gallery doors will close this evening after our conversation at 8, but we welcome you to continue to stay in dialogue with us this evening in Cornelia, where we'll be open until 9. And through the run of the exhibition, this exhibition is open until September 30th. Our artists have been in dialogue with family members of victims of the 5/14 tragedy, as well as with other community members affected by the violence of that day. It has been a heavy task. I'll be welcoming our artists to the stage to discuss their process later, but first I will welcome some of the family members themselves to the stage in dialogue with our Director of Community Engagement, Keiah Shauku. We are honored to welcome this evening Garnell Whitfield, Ebony White, and Mark Talley. Each of these individuals lost family members on 5/14. Garnell and Mark both lost their mothers. Ebony lost her uncle. Each of them has become an outspoken advocate in our community, championing numerous causes that afflict all of us. Whitfield has addressed Congress about gun control measures, marched with victims of other mass killings, and organized conferences that have gathered national social justice activists focused on issues from gun violence to the oppressive presence of white supremacy. Mark Talley is the executive director and founder of Agents for Advocacy, a not-for-profit based right here in Buffalo, dedicated to creating a world where one's race and environment do not dictate their future. He is also the author of the poignant 5/14, The Day the Devil Came to Buffalo. Ebony White is the Community Health Engagement Manager at the Buffalo Center for Health Equity, an organization designed to eliminate race, economic, and geographic-based health inequities in New York by changing social and economic conditions that cause illness and shorten lives among the sickest in our region. Their work focuses primarily in 5 zip codes where African Americans are dying at 3 times the rate of their white counterparts here in Buffalo. The tragedy of 514 does not define any of them, but the urgency of their activism in the wake of this tragedy contributes to a better understanding of how we can unite as a community for the health and safety of all of us. I welcome to the stage Keiah, Garnell, Mark, and Ebony.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. I want to start with just a basic question. Just how are you? And I know it's loaded, I know it's multifaceted, but in as much as you feel comfortable sharing, just how are you doing? Because I know everyone's wondering that.
I will say heavy. Some days are lighter than others, but at this very moment, heavy.
I guess I'll concur. This is a lot to take in. Feel exposed, certainly inadequate. This is a lot. So heavy is a good description.
I'm okay.
Well, thank you, and thank you for sharing that. I know I think what you said, exposed, is a good way, and heaviness, the weight of the moment. And I feel that tension. We've talked, and I definitely recognize that this project is something that sort of touches on a very intimate, personal tragedy and loss that has a very public component. And as we sort of thread the needle and walk across that line, it seems, I just want to say thank you for being here, because it's not a light undertaking, so really do appreciate you guys for being here. Let me turn a little bit, not to move past this, we can sit in our heaviness if we'd like. And so Mark, if you want to answer this since you're good and you're okay, just talk about what made you want to participate in this project.
I always want to be one of the voices, for the families of 514, continuously want to get this story out of the unfortunate tragedy of everything that happened, which I believe possibly, could have been prevented due to, several, warning and risk factors that showed themselves over time. So I constantly want to have this, anything relating to 514 talked about, whether it's poetry written about it, art pieces relating to it, everything in which I could do to speak alongside with it in my own voice, so the media or other people don't get it misconstrued.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, obviously I want to speak for my mother, who can't speak for herself, and for the others that lost their lives, and for my family and for my community, to bring attention to, as Mark stated, the injustices and the things that have transpired here in Buffalo, not just in Buffalo, but really around the world. And so, we're thankful for this opportunity to have these discussions and to bring attention to these things. Done a lot of traveling around the country and been in different environments, and oftentimes people don't understand what happened here in Buffalo. And so I feel like it's kind of my duty, our duty, I think we all take that very seriously, to make sure people are aware of what went on here, and shine light on it, not just to bring attention to it, but to hopefully prevent it from happening again.
Thank you.
I will say that selfishly, in the beginning, trauma kind of makes you feel alone. And what I discovered was I was not by myself. There were 9 other families and individuals all across the community and across the country that shared my pain. And when I thought about the relationship of my uncle with the community, he shared everything that he had, his goodness, he shared it. And I believe that the community has been instrumental for me in healing as I've kind of went through this grief. So it was, I couldn't be selfish to believe that mankind, humanity, was not aching as I was aching. So that was why it was really critical for me to participate, that their legacies live and thrive. So some people have a small network. In their case, thank you. In their case, I think that was.
Is it? Do you want to, Garnell, do you want to?
Thank you. But in their case, their lives, their good, everything that they provided was shared across the country. So how dare I withhold in keeping the fire burning that they had for everyone around them.
Thank you. I think just to park on that a little bit, the generosity, that's one of the things that came out of the conversation, just how here's a tragedy where something is taken, something is taken, a lot is taken, and the response was to give. And I think it's something interesting to see not only this generosity in your own selves, but obviously the artists who contributed to this work. It's just such a humbling thing to witness. I just want to thank you all for that. Yeah, thank you. I want to ask a little bit about the process. So you guys are open, you said yes to this, which, again, letting people enter into your own experience. What was the process like, working with the artists, just allowing them to find the way to articulate your experience? What was that process like?
It was like, for me, it was like meeting new relatives, right? And new friends. They came in, said, hey, can we meet you? I said, I'm still at work, but you can meet me here. And they just said, let's just talk. But they shared of themselves. And as I was sharing with them earlier, I understood that we had something in common. The impact was closer for me, but it still impacted them. And I felt good because some days I did not have the words. Someone had words for me. That's Jillian. I could not create through art or painting. That's Julia. Then putting it all together was Tiffany to say generosity. And you heard it over and over. And they met with us separately. And when I went into that space and she says, I'm just going to take a few pictures. And I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do. But it wasn't staged. It was so authentic. Just to be present, it was just like I was meeting a friend that I didn't know I had in the world. And I wouldn't have known I had in the world until this happened.
It was like...
We're gonna share one.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, all right, we're gonna flip past the mic. But yeah, it was like sitting down with family. It was authentic. It was therapeutic, and they provided a safe space for us to share. Otherwise, that would never have happened. And I think it comes across in their work that we felt safe, and we're able to express ourselves and share with them in a way that, quite honestly, I don't know if. I know I'm not an artist. I know I don't have an artistic bone in my body. So for them to be able to capture, what we're feeling and what we're talking about and what we're going through artistically, I thought was an opportunity to share in a way that I would never be able to do. And this is all about sharing. This is all about sharing our stories, sharing what we're feeling and what we're going through with as many people as possible. So that we can have this dialogue, so that we can have these discussions, and create these these spaces that are safe because so many times I think what has happened is that we don't have these discussions. We live in our silos, and we don't share one with the other. We don't really know each other. And so a lot of what happens is based on ignorance, just not knowing. Some of it is hate, and that's obvious. But a lot of it is just ignorance. There's a lot of good people in their safe spaces that just don't know any better. And so we have to have these honest discussions about what's going on in our community. And so I'm thankful for that.
Thank you.
It was an amazing time working with all the artists. I can barely draw a stick figure or make two sentences rhyme. So I appreciate that they use their artistic talents that they're trained in and been doing throughout their life to spread our story through the community, if not to the nation. So it's definitely honorable of them to wanting to sacrifice their personal time so we can tell our stories. Most people don't even want to sacrifice, $1 to you, let alone what they do on a professional basis for work. So it's, it shows you there is good here still in the city after an unfortunate, domestic attack.
Thank you. I can't even lie, I'm like misty-eyed. I'm trying to be brave. I'm like, Aaron, please bring me tissue, because I'm trying. I think that it reflects the fact that, like I said, there's that tension, like you said. We're all touched by this, and yet there is a way in which we are, we're also standing aside and standing alongside you. So again, thank you. Thank you to the artists. Like, I'm trying really hard. My goodness.
As I would tell my mother now, you got to man up a little bit.
I am tough.
You got this. Warming up.
Thank you. I'm usually brave. But I will say it's hard to not feel it, right? It's hard to, and I think what was really moving me is the generosity. It's a constant refrain, and I think there's something so beautiful when the depth of despair produces something good. And not just a good for one, it's an abundant good. It keeps producing good, not because no one would ask for this. No one would want to know this kind of goodness, but just seeing it and bearing witness is just so powerful. I just have to say thank you again for that. So you guys can clap for them because they're just amazing. I just want to ask, what did you think when you saw the finished product? So you went through the process, conversations, photos. The first time you saw the completed work of yourself, what did you think? Artists, cover your ears. No,
So the first thing I thought was, oh my God, she captured my hands, my unfavorable hands. But I said, those are my hands. She literally brought me to life. When I first looked at it, I was like, at first when she was like, hold this lily. And I was like, hold a lily? Okay, I guess. But after I kind of stared at it, life is hard. And I refer to my hands as hard working. I work very hard. And I believe my hands carry generations of women and men that work really hard. And being able to hold something so beautiful, despite the hardness, the toughness of life. There was still something very beautiful about his life, despite how it ended. There was something glorious about Teeny's scream from Tops parking lot, "Hey there, niece." I look forward for him to say, "Hey there, niece." He never called me Ebony, he just called me niece. And I revere him as Uncle Teeny. So that was my first expression, was saying like, wow, she captured me. She's seen what was on the inside, that it was hard. It's still hard. But beautiful things are blossoming at this point. There's been a lot of excavation for me, digging out of myself to replenish with things that will grow. So yeah, I seen life. I seen so much life in her photos.
Just what were your thoughts when you saw the finished painting? Yeah.
So like I said earlier, my first thought was one of vulnerability, one of being exposed, and for the first time, probably in a long time, actually seeing myself, because I don't pay much attention to myself. And so I don't know how people perceive me. I don't know, I don't really pay attention to that. So to see myself on that canvas, and that was really me, that's really me, and she captured that. It was shocking, because I saw all the things that I feel. Thank you. And it's just an eye-opener to actually see what has happened to me, to actually be able to visualize and actually see. I mean, I've aged, I've grieved and crying, and you can tell me to man up, Mark, but I'm a crier. I cry all the time, and I make no apologies for it, but it was something. And not only did I see me, but like I said, the whole vulnerability piece is that now you see me. And you probably saw me all along, but I didn't realize that. I thought I was fooling you. You know what I'm saying? I thought I was putting on I had this facade, or I had this, this exterior that, that looked a certain way. And so that's what it was for me. It was quite revealing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think, Mark, you're gonna have a tough time telling everybody to man up and woman up, because it's hard, okay? It's really hard. But yeah, so what did you think when you saw the painting?
Oh, I love. She captured my height, the muscle definition. She got the locks in there. And she got, the intense glare in my eyes. I love it. It's a lot of people in this world, will have some of the utmost audacity, even those who really shouldn't even have the audacity to try to, get in your face and step to you and, try to sun you. And, I take great pride knowing no one, better not dare try that with me.
I did hear that about your painting in particular, how just you came off the canvas like, yeah, all of your power and dignity.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
It really is. So, thank you. Yes, please, yes. So we're gonna ask about okay, you've seen the painting, what about the exhibition as a whole? We're downstairs, just everything together, right? The poetry, the prose, just the layout. What did you think?
I felt whole. I'll say over this time period, sometimes I don't even know what length of time it is. You just felt fragmented. It's whole. It captured the joy, it captured the generosity, it captured the transitions of people's lives and their loved ones, and how you are still connected. I looked at the one photo Julia showed me, is with the, I would say, grandmother and grandchild or great-grandchild. And I immediately said, because we all want to feel that. You want to experience that as long as you can. So me as a grandmother, I was like, whoa. But then I thought about how my grandmother loved me. and for those who lost, their grandmother. It just made it whole in one place, and it was safely placed. So, yeah, some wholeness.
For me, it's just the space. The pictures, the artwork, all of that's beautiful. But more importantly, is how that all was done and why it was done. So no matter how it would have looked, the fact that they thought it not robbery to take the time to try to, express themselves and through us, and share that, I think makes that just a sacred space. You saw the pictures, the other models in there, and I don't know who they are, but my daughter was here with her daughter. That's my mother's granddaughter and great granddaughter were here, and just the presentation, what are they, desks? I don't know what you would call them. The vanities. That's beautiful. The prose, the poetry. My mom collected antiques. She was into vintage furniture and all those kinds of things. She loved all that kind of stuff. And it's just so appropriate that they were able to capture that and make that a part of this. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you for that.
Unfortunately, if you know me, I rip and run throughout the city, so I didn't get a chance, to see none of the paintings, but, I feel when you put your trust, and I put my trust, unequivocally in these artists, when you put your trust in these people and you know that they're great people and you know that they're great in their particular fields, I feel I have nothing to worry about. I feel the second I look at all of these portraits, at these paintings, it'll be excellent. So with me, I have the utmost confidence that, once I get the chance to see all of these portraits, it'll be 1,000% excellent.
So we're getting ready to wrap up, but I want to, I have two questions, but I'll just make them turn them into one. But I want to read part of Jillian's poem, if it's okay, just a little stanza. It says, "In morning until morning." And the stanza that stood out to me and it made me think of you guys is, "A land stained with the blood of our ancestors, let us become their legacy, finishing the work they began, and beginning new works with their vision in mind. In the morning, let us rise." And so my question is, how do you want this exhibition, this platform, to impact your work? The other question I was going to ask is, what do you want the audience and people who go through that space, what do you want them to carry with them, and how do you want it to impact them? I saved the softball for the end, just so you know.
All right, here, I would love for everybody just to close their eyes then, and picture the person who you love most, who you care about the most, and picture a shotgun blowing their head off. That's what I want this to do, because this is what all the families here had the experience. When writing my book, I had to watch, my mother died 10 times. And I want people to feel, all the emotion from here and let it resonate with them. This is the effects that you know, gun violence can have on a person, can have on a community, can have on a nation. Unfortunately, you know, it looks like the United States government still isn't getting the message, but I want that emotion of you just picturing the person you love most, you know, getting their head shot with a shotgun. I want that to resonate with you, you know, for the rest of your life, because that's what we're all going to be going through now.
So immediately when I read that piece, I'm a spiritual woman, and the song that came to mind this morning when I rose, I did not have no doubt. I knew the Lord would take care of me. And in that space, I want people to know that even when it's darkness, there is a morning. And sometimes the morning is through you. I never imagined in my regular day-to-day life that I would be catapulted to the front and they say, hey, you know, we don't want to talk to the cameras, but this is your space. That it would be so close to me. That it is morning. There is going to be a dusk and there's going to be a dawn. But I make a commitment to celebrate the morning. Every morning I get. To show up in whatever condition that I'm in. Because that morning is not promised. I don't have a date of expiration. I just know I need to keep living. So my hope is that when people come into that space, they will experience a level of, you know, the pain and the missing and that transition and the act, but I don't want it to be the totality of the fire that has been lit in people across these families, the survivors, etc., to make change. So I want them to still celebrate mourning, although you are mourning still.
Just want to concur with what Mark said, Ebony said. You know, for me, this is I plan to use this as a tool. You know, it's going to be a tool that's going to help. It's going to be the impetus for further discussion. To draw people in. Looking out over this audience, I said, you know, because of this exhibit, because of 514, we have a very diverse audience here today. And I don't think that's the norm in this building and in this space. And so if we can do it in this space, we can do it in other spaces too. You know, the devil is a liar. Hate did not win. My mother's death, our loved one's death was not in vain. From that, you can see, you can look all around you and see change happening. And it starts with us, you know, having these conversations, having this dialogue. Change, you know, you can pass all the laws you want to. I lobby for sensible gun legislation, and you know, we lobby against, you know, white supremacist ideology and all of these things. We have to work hard and get to the root of all of these things that helped facilitate this tragedy here. But at the end of the day, change happens in the hearts and minds of people. That's where it really, and those are the seeds that we're planting. Those are the seeds my mother planted. She planted them in me, and I'm planting them everywhere I go. And so just like Johnny Appleseed, you know, I'm traveling the country and planting seeds. So I thank you all for being here, taking out your time to come here. This is important. It's important, you know, my prayer is that when we leave this place, that we'll take some of these things with us and we'll have these conversations in our homes and in our communities, you know, where I might not be able to walk, but you can carry that message for me. Thank you.
On behalf of AKG and the community, I just want to thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing and allowing us to enter in. and just let your story be told. And like you said, planting those seeds. Thank you so much.
How y'all doing?
How y'all doing?
Ooh, how y'all doing? I know.
I mean, Keiah started with that question. How you doing?
I don't know. I feel honored and proud, but it is heavy. We've been working on this for a long time, and I guess I'm just glad that in this moment right now, I'm sitting among people who really understand what the last 16 months have been like, trying to find a way to really articulate all the nuances of May 14th, what led to May 14th, and what our community looks like post May 14th.
Wow. I think it's so, Ebony put it perfectly, it feels heavy, it feels very surreal, it feels like an honor, it feels painful but also beautiful at the same time. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Switch. I echo what they said, it feels surreal and overwhelming. Yeah, just, I don't know, I definitely feel honored for the work that we were trusted to do, but I wish this exhibition didn't have to exist, so, yeah.
I put a poem here on the screen. Jillian, you were the first one to deliver artwork for us. We talked a lot about your words. Everybody, you know, we heard it from Ebony tonight, and I think we're all kind of emotional. We don't have the words. And so we look to poets. We look to people that have a facility with words. And as, you know, the three of you talked, you were the first one to come to us with these words. So how did you arrive at them?
Well, this piece in particular was actually easy to write because it's about not knowing what to say. Myself, along with a lot of other people in the community, we were tasked with being able to speak to and about May 14th on May 15th. Some of us never had a chance to really process. We didn't have a chance to grieve. And that might be because of the roles we play in our respective communities. It might be because of a sense of urgency we felt individually. Whatever that reason might be, a lot of us, we had microphones put in front of our faces the morning after the most painful thing to ever happen in our community. And this piece really describes my perspective of how the community tried to find the words together. You know, I say we look for the words in music. If you drove down Jefferson May 15th to the end of that summer, you were gonna hear music. You were gonna see people communing. You were gonna see people trying to feed each other. You know, people trying to just be present, trying to be a safe space for other people because we didn't know what to say. You know, nobody's trained on how to respond to something like this. And so throughout the process of writing all of these pieces, I really let the families inform the words. And this might sound cliche, but I really feel like a lot of these words were given to me by God himself because I don't see myself personally as being someone without the support of God and my family who can do something this big. I never did. I remember when I was called on to write the memorial piece inside Tops, and I called my mom after and I was crying, and I'm like, this is not fair. I don't know any other poets who are being asked to do this. Like, I don't know anybody else being asked. I can't do it. I cannot do it. And my mom reminded me that we pray for the opportunity to be able to rise for our people. And now you have that. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna write, or are you gonna put your tool away, put your weapon away? So I tried to just remember that, remember what the families were saying, and really lean on the fact that there were other people for the first time since working on any May 14th response work I've done, that I had people doing it with me, so.
Well, Garnell, we see you. And we see the good that you do in this community, and you have moved so many people so often with your words. And, you know, Julia did this amazing portrait, and it's wild for me as a curator to hear how that impacts you. But Julia, how, you know, knowing, we talk about the power of art, but now, you know, we're seeing it, we're hearing it. Talk about this painting.
I mean, just hearing, oof. I promise I don't usually cry at things like this, but just hearing that you felt seen, and, you know, hearing Ebony talk about her hands, you know, I saw beauty with that. I saw beauty in your vulnerability, and yeah, I think now it's unpacking it and taking something out of, like, hearing what it means to somebody else. I mean, to me, in that space, I found it challenging, healing. It challenged me to re-listen to our interviews, but I think to hear that you feel seen means everything to me about it. Yeah.
In a museum, you know, we're used to working in a visual way, and so, you know, I've known you for 7 years, Julia, and I, you know, as Mark was saying, you know, I trusted you, and I trusted everybody on this stage, and, you know, I want to thank, you know, the authors on stage, because it is an unusual thing to ask people to write in a visual space. And again, you know, you have found a profound way to speak to me and allow me to be an advocate. But I guess, you know, with these poems, you know, they resonated with me because they ended up in paintings as well. And maybe talk about the conversations you had with the families.
Yeah. So Your Garden was written in honor of Miss Ruth Whitfield. The conversation that we had with Garnell Whitfield is probably the most transformational conversation that I had in the process. Hearing him talk about his mom, it was like I knew her. It was like I know her. I know this woman. Like, I can see her. I can feel her presence. I remember him talking about building a garden bed for his mom prior to May 14th. And there was a comment that he made. He repeated a comment that his mom made, like, that looked like a casket or something to that extent. And that was just, I don't know. I feel like that conversation, it did something to me. When I wrote Your Garden, I really thought about the work that he does now in our community and the way that he has finished his mom's garden, you know? And that's what we all hope for. We all hope that we can be honored to continue the legacy of the people we love. So I hope that when people read Your Garden, they think about somebody whose legacy they're standing on, someone whose shoulders they're standing on, because it's our responsibility. And I think it's really important to say that for Mark and Ebony, Garnell, and everybody else, all the family members who have jumped into action, who have become voices in our community, like they don't owe us that. Yeah. They gave everything. If anything, we owe them everything. Yes. So, Garnell, I will help you finish your mom's garden. Because that's my responsibility, not as an artist, but as somebody who is from this community, as someone who is fed by this community. Lily in the Valley, that was written after talking to Ebony. You mentioned, I don't remember if it was a song or a scripture, you mentioned something, Lily in the Valley, and I could not shake those words. Yeah. So when I wrote that one, that probably is the one I wrote the fastest. That just kind of poured out of me. And I can't say where these poems came from, besides saying that they came from Garnell and Mark and Ebony, and everybody else that we got to talk to, but yeah.
So I want to give Tiffany a moment, because I love you. I mean, maybe Julia talk about these lilies and Ebony.
Yeah, it's just, again, it's hard to put into words what it's meant, you know, to create this work. And with this particular piece, the same thing that Jillian was saying, I think that what you said about the lily in the valley, that just, it resonated and it stuck with me, and that was the image that stood out. And, you know, there was just something so powerful about how open you were and what you shared. And I hope that that translated in the work, you know, just to talk about this beauty, about what's left behind, what's remembered, what's lost, and to kind of tie that all into one single piece. And I think that's a departure from my usual work, because so much of what I usually talk about is just Black joy. And we're still talking about Black joy even in this, and resilience, but there's also that grief in there as well. And that, I think, has been one of the most challenging things I've ever worked on in that sense. So I thank you for allowing me to create.
I've known your work to be about Black joy since I met you 7 years ago. And you and I talked about what it would mean to paint this work. And we talked about, one thing you'll notice in all the portraits is that there's raw canvas, there's exposed canvas. You know, Garnell talked about that vulnerability. You know, we thought a lot about erasure and absence and stories that weren't told to their fullest. And Tiffany, I think you and I, when we kind of both tasked ourselves with writing to get our feelings out, and you know, there was heaviness in Julia's work. There's heaviness in Jillian's work, and there is in your work too. But there's some anger, and I appreciate the forthrightness of your writing. Maybe again, talk about what it's like to be writing for a visual space.
Oof. Well, first, I just want to say that talking with the family members, talking to Ebony and Garnell and Mark and everyone, it really gave me permission to feel and to really sit with it. Ebony, I remember so clearly in our conversation with you that you did not shy away from your anger. You know, that was one thing that you really leaned into, was that, no, I'm angry that this happened. And I think that the systems of white supremacy, the systems, the history of racist violence that we are born from, it pushes us or tries to make us become desensitized to that anger, to that frustration, to the pain, to the hopelessness that no matter what we do, no matter how many times we pick ourselves up, we are still facing the same violence, the same attacks on our community. And I think talking with you all and just the grace that you carried in honoring your feelings, honoring the anger, honoring the pain, not shying away from it, not feeling like you needed to minimize it, you know, carrying that weight with you every single day, even when you have to continue to get up and go to work and take care of your families and survive. It was so powerful. And it gave me permission to sit down and say, I don't need to intellectualize this. I don't need to think about this in an academic context. You know, I think as writers and as curators, like, we're in the space that feels very sterile, very intellectual, that feels very removed from our humanity as people. And talking with each of you inspired me to really challenge myself and hopefully viewers as they read the piece to connect with the humanity, you know, the cycles that come with life and death, and the heaviness of death in the face of lives being stolen, and not shying away from the fact that that is raw and that grief does not go away, but we hope that we channel it into something, into a rebirth. It's part of the cycle of life, and we have to honor the light just as much as we have to honor the dark. And you all really pushed me to honor that darkness, but to hold on to the light just as well.
That's beautiful. You talk a lot about love in your writing too, and I appreciate it. Mark, this is how you look. You look good. I didn't realize this until I was putting this deck together, Julia, that the last 3 paintings that you delivered are the 3 people here tonight. And the last painting that you finished was Mark. And he is the only person that is with eyes raised. Yeah. He's looking at us.
I mean, I tried to make each of the paintings, again, reflect the spirit of the people that I'm portraying. And I think there was something about Mark, like when I first met him, just the stare, it's the stare, and it's the, you know, he's bold. Yeah, and I think it just felt so appropriate to have that be, that was the last piece that I delivered. His was the last one. And it felt appropriate to have him making eye contact and to have it say, you know, you've seen all this, what are you gonna do now? It turns it over into your hands. And I think that is very much in line, again, with the activism work and just the voices that you guys are using to create beautiful change, you know, out of something terrible. So I felt like that made sense to me. And we were really conscious about those kind of decisions, like even where to place it within the gallery, you know, so that you hopefully encounter it kind of as the last piece. Yeah, and I just felt like it was powerful, and that's the way that I view you, so, yeah.
Yeah, my title on this exhibition is curator, but the 3 women up here put this exhibition together. I mean, I'm grateful to have platformed them. I'm grateful to have participated in the conversations, but, you know, those vanities, that's Tiffany. You know, these paintings, it's Julia, it's, you know, talking about color, and we all learned together. You know, I learned a lot. I did not know about Figmos. And, you know, it was through talking to Doug Ruffin and that kind of work and talking to community members that I learned more about the space that I now call home. Maybe y'all can talk about, you know, what that journey was like as you were developing your respective works.
Well, I think for me, I mean, I learned as well. I hear some of the elders kind of chuckling at the idea of Figmos, and I get it now, because, you know, all the elders seem to know about Figmos, and that's something that I found I was surprised to learn about him. Like, oh, we had this legacy, and even if it was short-lived, that's something beautiful and something worth celebrating. And as I uncovered more and more of this, like looking at Doug Ruffin's research and, you know, looking at library references and stuff and trying to find out the history of, you know, Black Buffalo, I got a little bit angry, to be honest, because I'm like, these are accomplishments, and I don't see them documented in the mainstream media. I shouldn't have had to look so hard to find them. And I think that in the back of my mind, as I was working on these pieces, you know, this frustration started to manifest in the still life pieces, and this educational component came to it. And something that I really thought of with this is that ties into the idea of like losing so many elders to this tragedy is that our elders are our story keepers. They're the ones that hold the legacy, and some of that legacy is being lost because we as the next generation are not documenting it, and we're not writing it down, and we're not giving it the value that it needs and deserves. So, you know, I thought to do these still life pieces and reflect on that. That's my attempt to try to like do my part to say, you know, I was told this, and now I'm passing it on to everybody else.
So what was it like for the three of you to see each other's work? I mean, this is the first time you've ever done still lives. This is the first time you've, you know, written like this for an exhibition. That you said, you know, you couldn't believe I came to you. Of course I came to you, but like, you know, what was it like sharing each other's work?
Again, so for me, I'm normally an active one. So just being able to have other people doing this work, you know, alongside me, it made it feel a lot safer. It made the hard times a little less difficult. It made the times where we really needed to lean into the heaviness easier. I think a lot of times, especially as Black women, we're conditioned to compartmentalize, over-compartmentalize how we feel in order to survive the world in front of us. So being able to go through this with Black women specifically has been crucial, I think, to this project. One thing that I really wanted to emphasize, and this is after talking to the families, but even just working alongside Julia and Tiffany and seeing the beauty that Julia still was able to put into the paintings, even the most painful ones, and the beauty that Tiffany was able to weave into the prose pieces, even though it was angry, is that it's really important that we make spaces where we're acknowledging our beauty as Black people beyond our resilience. Like, we know we're resilient. We know. Anybody, raise your hand if you don't know that Black people are resilient. Like, we know, we get it. We've been resilient. We've been fighting. We've been standing back up when we get knocked down. And I think sometimes we forget that our beauty is in our existence, not our resilience or our ability to survive. Yeah. The beauty exists because we exist. And I think even in this exhibition, even though it's so painful and it's hard, and you might have to go see it a few times so that you can really get a chance to process it all, I'm hoping that you all see the beauty in the existence of the work. Look beyond the resilience and really just like do more work than that, you know? Be more nuanced than that, and understand that with or without this exhibition today, this community is beautiful. Whether May 14th happened or not, this community is beautiful. The color comes from the East Side, you know what I mean? The music comes from, like, it's a beautiful people.
Come on now. That's right.
I see y'all know. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that came out of this process for me, is really seeing my people for their beauty beyond everything that we've been able to survive.
That's right. That's right. Give it up. I would say for me, I think the biggest takeaway from this experience, working with these incredible women, working with, you know, the community members, the family members, for me was really gaining a new understanding of home and the safety of home. And this community is home. For those of you who don't know, I'm not from Buffalo originally. I've lived here about 11 years now. And I think that I've always felt a certain, what's the word that I'm looking for? Just a desire to really make myself a part of Buffalo's home, this community that I have been so honored to learn about this history through my curatorial work, and just the legacy of incredible people, incredible Black people that have made history right here in Buffalo, New York. And as someone, and it's easy, you know, being from here to know that history locally because it's passed down, but to have the opportunity to be exposed to it as someone coming in as an outsider, it has made me feel a newfound appreciation for Buffalo as home. And to be included in this exhibition and just how much it means to this community, to our community, it affirmed for me that Buffalo is my home. And I'm so grateful. Yeah. I'm gonna try not to cry. But I'm just so grateful that I see just so much warmth and welcoming and love and embrace. And that was something that I really wanted to convey in the essay, because that's just a natural part of this community. That's what I see on the East Side. That's what I see in the elders that I have come to respect and love. That's what I see in Jillian and Julia. And that's what I hope to continue to spread in the work that I do, to bring new attention to the beauty that is right here in Buffalo, to honor it, to acknowledge the difficulties, the challenges, the systemic issues that have tried to break that love, that sense of resilience, but also that beauty in just existing. Like, I love that. We are beautiful just for being here and honoring our humanity, honoring the fact that we are alive. And I hope that as people experience the exhibition, even the smallest ways that we can be mindful in how we show love to ourselves, to each other, to our community, to our family, to our friends, even our enemies. That's how we make difference. That's how we make the change that we want to see. And one thing that really stuck with me out of our conversation with Garnell was that if we allow hate to win and to consume us, then the experience that we had, the loss that we went through, it's for what? We have to power through, we have to choose love. We have to love ourselves, and we have to love each other, and we have to show up.
I'm going to end on a question that Keiah posed, right? What do we hope people gain from this exhibition?
I've been looking at this exhibition as two parts. I think of the figurative work as the heart and the spirit and all the emotion, and I want people to come in and feel that. But with the still lifes, I've been looking at as a challenge and as the educational component. And I think that as much as the whole thing is for us as a community, that particularly is for those that still might not get it yet. So I want, if you feel like you don't get it yet, come back multiple times, sit with the work, find out what the research is about, and that's my challenge to you, because I think that, you know, again, what's it all for if we don't make change? And I think people think that sometimes feeling guilty is good enough, or apologizing for, you know, ancestors is good enough. That's the easy way out. And I don't need that apology. What I need is, how do you treat your neighbors? Do you shop at the same supermarket as us? You know, do you know where that Tops is located? And if you don't, that's the work that you can do. And it's not a lot of work. It's easy work to do. So that's what I hope comes of this. I hope that people sit with the work, challenge themselves, and take even just that small first step. There's a couple things you could do right out of the gate, and bring somebody else back. Maybe even bring somebody back that you think, you know, is less receptive, and challenge them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I second that. Like, I want people to not shy away from how challenging this exhibition is on so many levels. The systemic levels of addressing the systems of white supremacy and racist violence, the personal levels of navigating grief and loss and the cycle of life, especially when that cycle is perpetuated in a way that is not natural, that is emblematic of the reality of this system that we are in. But I also hope that people recognize and really acknowledge the beauty in art as a way to process, to heal, to have conversations, and how tapping into our own modes of expression, whether it's through writing, whether it's through music, through poetry, through visual art, how that can allow us to connect with each other on a deeper level. And I hope that folks bring that into their day-to-day lives and really challenge themselves to think about the ways that we can tap into our creativity to restore our humanity in the ways that we honor the humanity of ourselves, of each other, and of our ancestors, so that their lives that were stolen and were lost are not in vain.
So yeah, I want people to ask questions. I want people to say, like, what does that mean? Like this photo of the cake. But what is those numbers? What do those numbers mean? Like, why is that there? Mm-hmm. I want you to ask questions and have conversations. I want you to see the beauty. But I think most importantly, my desire is that this exhibition will help people really understand that the 10 lives that were stolen on May 14th, we can't reduce this down to 10 moments of silence once a year. Like, we can't reduce this down to a hashtag. We can't just be like the Buffalo 10 murals all over the city. Like all of that is necessary, but again, we have to do a little bit more than that. Like, we need to understand that the people our community lost, like, these are the people who hold the macaroni and cheese recipe for the family. These are the people who are the family comedians or the patriarchs and matriarchs of families. These are people. These are real people who are no longer with us. And as we honor them, we have to honor them beyond the ceremonial things that we know we're gonna do every year. They deserve more than that. So I'm hoping that not only will you make space for yourself to feel how you really need to feel, feel your feelings, put a name on them, sit with them, really take some time understanding them, but we'll understand the importance of making space to really honor the people, the 10 individuals who have personalities and whose family members still have their perfume on their dressers today. You'll see in the portraits, like Mark, he's holding a piece from his mom's mantle or dresser. And like that's the thing that I want you to take away from this, that this can't just be something that we talk about once a year. And when you learn, ask questions. And don't just ask the questions to your family members or the artists. Call your elected officials and ask them. Ask them, how come that map I saw in the exhibition that Julia Bottoms painted still shows the same redlining of our communities today? Like ask those questions. Like, let's really do the work. Yeah. So beyond taking in the beauty, like let's really gear ourselves up to do the actual work so that we make sure that the community that we exist in is one that can actually work for us.
Period.
For me, the women on stage here are water, they are legacy, and I am happy that this is my home. I'm happy it's home for you. I am grateful to Mark and Ebony and Garnell and everybody that carries on those legacies and remind us that we cannot talk about this once a year. This exhibition is up through September 30th. I hope that you come back. I hope that you stay in dialogue. I am thankful to all of you. Thank you.